The last type of problem we'll look at is how to use the Pythagorean theorem when you're dealing with an isosceles triangle. So remember, an isosceles triangle just means two congruent sides. So that doesn't necessarily mean you're dealing with a right triangle. Okay? So one thing to recall before we get going is the area of a triangle. How do I find the area of a triangle? Remember, area equals base times height divided by 2. So B is the base, H is the height. So in an isosceles triangle, like off to the right, the height is not always given. Okay? We've got 2 legs here in the base, but these legs don't meet the base in a right angle. So they're not perpendicular. So it's not actually the height. Instead, we need to remember that the height and the base are always perpendicular. And in an isosceles triangle, if you're not given the height, what you can do is you can draw a height in here that's perpendicular to the base, and then what does it do to the base? If you remember from last semester, it cuts it in half. So then you could set up something like this right triangle. Oops, what was that? In order to solve for the height. Okay? So, in part A, we have an isosceles right triangle. So this does tell us that it's an isosceles right triangle. So drawing a picture would look something like this. We got the right angle and it's isosceles, so these two sides are congruent. And it has a hypotenuse length of 20. We want to find the exact length of the legs of the triangle. So exact means radicals, no decimals. So how do we do this? We don't know any of the legs. We just know the hypotenuse. But if it's an isosceles right triangle, we know both of the side lengths have to be the same. So I could call them both x, because they are congruent. One side length is x, the other side length has to be x, because they are the same exact length. They are congruent sides. So if I set this up, we've got x squared plus x squared equals the hypotenuse squared, which is 20 squared. So x squared plus x squared, that is going to give me 2x squared, we can combine like terms, equals 20 squared, which is 400. So from here, what I can do is I can divide both sides by 2. So we'll get x squared equals 400 divided by 2, which is 200. And then in order to get rid of the squaring, we are going to square root both sides. So square rooting a exponent of 2 cancels it out. So we've got x equals the square root of 200. It's asking for an exact answer, so I need to simplify this radical. So simplifying the radical, I want to break it down. So square root of 200, I could break that down into square root of 2 times the square root of 100. Well, the square root of 100 is a perfect square. 100 is a perfect square. So the square root of 100 is going to give me 10 on the outside, and 2 is stuck on the inside. So this is the exact length of one of the legs of the triangle. X equals 10 square roots of 2. In part B, You got an isosceles triangle that has a base measuring 24 meters and its two congruent sides each measure 15. Find the area of the triangle to the nearest square meter. So this one I'm going to ask you guys to do on your own. So this is going to be a you try now. My hint, draw a diagram. And then once you draw the isosceles triangle, look for the right triangle inside of that you can draw separately to use Pythagorean theorem. Because in order to find the area, you need the base times height divided by 2. So try that out. We'll go over it in class. After this, let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to start working on the worksheet, but I will see you in class later. Be safe, be good. Have a good one.